Okay. Perfect. I think we're just getting a few people coming through now, so that's great. Just whilst we're waiting for everybody to join us, we would absolutely love it if you are able to follow Enactus UK on social media. We're across all of the channels, so whichever one that you find you use the most, then please do join us on there. It's the best way to find out about when all of our partner graduate schemes open, like HSBC. It's a fantastic way to find out any other student voice opportunities and events that you can get involved with. So please do follow us on there. We'll also be able to see the recording from the session will be uploaded onto YouTube a little bit later on. I'd say a couple of weeks that will be up there, but if you do subscribe to our channel, we'll be able to send you that notification for when this session does go online. Okay. So if you aren't already part of the network, we would absolutely love it if you were. This is the only way to be recognised as an official Enactus student. So please do head to enactusuk.org/join. This is the way that you can get access to exclusive opportunities and training events that we've run. And we'll also be able to give you tailored support and coaching for yourself to develop professionally, for your Enactus team and your Enactus projects if you're getting involved with those. So if you are not part of Enactus yet, please do head to the join link and we can connect you to your team. Or if you are part of the Enactus team but you haven't registered yet, then please do head there. It'll take 2 minutes of your time and it's a great way to get involved. So if you haven't managed to join us from any of our sessions so far, then I'll just do a quick introduction as to what Enactus is. So Enactus is the UK's leading combined youth social action and youth social enterprise charity, which works to develop thousands of young entrepreneurial spirits every year. Now, what that means in practice is we aim to be the bridge between the world of work and the world of higher education. So we really try and teach students the skills through developing student-led projects which address one of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. Now, being part of these projects, which then can become social enterprises in their own right, allows you to develop skills in kind of a safe environment, in an environment where you're working alongside other university students with the similar passions to you. Now, what makes Enactus really special is we work with 17 of the UK's leading graduate employers and leading brands like HSBC who are joining us today. So you can be part of the network and get access to over 230 of our business coaches who work in the organisations that we're partnered with and can really help develop you to help with your project that you're working on, but also your personal skills and really help you for when you leave university so you feel fully equipped for the world of work. So an exciting thing to be part of, and we would absolutely love for you to join the network. We currently have over 2,000 students, so if you can be 2001, that would be brilliant. We'd love to get you on board and join us. However, I am very aware that you are not here to speak to me today, even though I will be inviting you to an Enactus Welcome event later on. You are here to speak to HSBC. So I'll just quickly pop this on the screen if you missed it on the first time. We'd love to see you as part of the network, but I will now pass over to Anastasia and her colleagues and stop my screen share so you can see the main event.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. So let me reshare my screen and share our slides with you. So welcome everyone. It is so nice to see so many of you joining today. My name is Anastasia. I'm a graduate recruitment coordinator here at HSBC, and I am here with two of my colleagues, Ted and Kiva, who will be sharing a day in the life of a graduate and industrial placement students with you, and we will be focusing on wealth and personal banking. So let me just briefly walk you through some of the organizational steps of this session. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat, and I will be answering them throughout the session. If you don't feel comfortable asking those questions and putting them to everyone in the chat, feel free to send me a private message and I will be happy to answer any of your questions. But how would our session look like today? So we'll first speak a bit about us, about HSBC and what we do. I will then walk you through our opportunities and then the application process. And then we'll move to the main event of today's session, which is a day in the life of a graduate and industrial placement student. So let me walk you briefly around HSBC's history and some of the data about us. So you can probably see that we have a bunch of numbers here on the screen, and I won't be diving deeply into each and every one of them. I'm pretty sure you can see them by yourself and check them by yourself, but what is one of my favorite things when I speak on the sessions is highlighting that if you decide to join HSBC, you will have over 200,000 colleagues worldwide. And this is just amazing if you ask me. But what do we do as a bank and why do we do that? So on the slide here, you can see a little bit of our structure. And we have three main business areas, which is wealth and personal banking, a star of the show today, commercial banking, global banking and markets, and also technology and global operations. So I want to start by giving you some more information about wealth and personal banking, since we will be spending most of the session today talking about wealth and personal banking. So this is what most people know as everyday banking, and it's our business to customer services. We help millions of customers manage their finances and protect their wealth and grow their wealth. So it also involves a broad range of activities, from developing new digital customer experiences and managing relationships with high net worth customers, to developing new financial products to keep up with changing customer needs. So there are plenty of ways in which we can support our customers, things like branches, which is probably most well known, also call centers, range of different digital platforms, so things like self-service terminals and also mobile banking. Another business area that our team is responsible for recruiting is commercial banking. And commercial banking is slightly different. This is our business to business services. And here we help businesses grow locally and internationally. So things like providing loans to help businesses invest in growth, advising on risks, providing foreign exchange and trade finance services, supporting international expansion, etc. And for larger organizations that are already operating across borders, we offer tailored advice on decisions. For example, things like financing major projects or issuing debt or making acquisitions. And since we do like to brag a little bit, since we do work hard, these are some of our non-industry awards that we won with our early careers programs. I won't be going into each and every one of them, but you can briefly look through them. Another thing that I wanted to discuss with you is our opportunities. So we are currently live and open for applications, and we would be happy to see your application come through after this event. But just wanted to share quickly with you some of the opportunities that we have available at HSBC. So you can quickly take a screenshot of the slide or take a picture to know more about the opportunities that we have available. Also, everything that is on this slide is also on our website, and I will give you some of the useful details towards the end of the session for you, and you can take a look. Okay, so as I mentioned, we are open for application. Therefore, I wanted to give you a brief insight into what our application process actually looks like. And hopefully this will help you throughout your application process with us. So first and foremost, we begin with application form. This is something that would usually take you from 10 to 20 minutes. And we ask you to complete a short form around local requirements, and also we will be checking your eligibility, and you will be asked to confirm that you are eligible for this role. We have changed our whole selection process back in 2017, and we have moved away from competency-based recruitment, and now we focus on strength-based recruitment. So basically, what does it mean is we hire based on the values, we hire based on your strengths and behaviors that we feel align to the roles you are applying to, rather than your previous experience. We also operate on a blind CV process. So blind CV process means that we don't actually check your CV up until the onboarding process. We solely rely on your application form. Therefore, me stating that application form is very important is crucial for you to remember. And some of the information about the eligibility criteria. So we would require you to be on track or already have a 2.1 degree result or its international equivalent. We would ask you to be nationally mobile, as well as fluent in English and eligible to work in the UK. However, we do offer visa sponsorship. So after you apply, you will receive an invitation to online immersive assessment, or OIA for short. We do like our acronyms here at HSBC. So OIA is an assessment with a series of activities that you would complete around a narrative focused on the challenges and successes you could experience at HSBC. After this stage, everyone would receive personalized feedback report, and successful candidates are invited to the next stage. And the next stage is job simulation. And this is an exercise that uses a range of different question types with various assessment components. So you'll have critical judgment tasks, behavioral and written and verbal communication tasks, and these will be based on real role challenges that would be specific to the business area you have applied to. And the last but not least is probably the most exciting and the most nerve-wracking part for our candidates, which is a virtual experience day. So this assessment center or virtual experience day is now split into two parts. Part A consists of series of mandatory micro exercises, and this will be sent to you prior to part B of the assessment center, and you will have a deadline which you would need to complete them by. And part B will offer you a chance to get to know one another and involves a more traditional interview experiences. So things like strength-based and technical interviews covering your motivation, technical knowledge, and also some of the strength-based questions. Okay. So I'll stop talking for a bit and actually give a word to the stars of our session today, Kiva and Ted, who will take you through their life at HSBC, how they got here, and their maybe highlights of their experience here with us. So allow me first to introduce you to Kiva, who is one of our WPP or Wealth and Personal Banking grads, who will be talking through a day in her life. Kiva, over to you.
Thanks, Anastasia. Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm Quiva. I'm on the Wealth and Personal Banking Generalist Scheme. So I joined in 2020. I graduated from the University of Liverpool with a first-class degree in business management. One thing I would note at this point, your degree subject doesn't matter. One of my best friends on the scheme studies chemistry. I think that was one of my fears joining the scheme. I don't study economics, etc. So I just want to dispel that myth at the first point of call, because your subject really doesn't matter too much in terms of this scheme. As you can see there, my hobby is very vague, very general. but I'm a big gym girl. I like eating out, like going out, socialising with friends, and I'm a bit of a bookworm. So that's me really. And then at the bottom of the screen, you can see kind of my journey so far, where I'm up to and where I'm heading, hopefully. So when I joined the scheme, we had 2 weeks of inductions. So first week is a global graduate induction, where you get to meet people from graduate schemes all over the world. Again, for me, this was something that really excited me about HSBC. There's so many like global opportunities to work with other people. Even if you don't necessarily want to work globally yourself, just to have that exposure to different markets and different ways of working was honestly incredible, and a really great way to kickstart the programme. You then move into We'll Make a Grad Out of You, which you might hear referred to as Wamagui, bit of a mouthful, but really enjoyable week, lots of kind of self-development initiatives, lots of just getting to know the business, getting to know the systems, and getting to know your peers really. It's quite a community-based graduate scheme, I would say, compared to others that I've heard of. So it kind of sets the tone for that. You get to meet everyone. And yeah, it's a really fun way to start. I then went into my first placement, which is a customer journey placement. So I was in network operations. So that's what you might know of as like a branch on the street of a bank. That's what we refer to as the network. So I was the kind of head office side of that, responsible for the customer element of operations. So kind of analysing complaints data, satisfaction scores, that kind of thing. So really good insight into kind of product services, how all of that works, which is really useful. I'm now currently in my leadership placement. So I'm a team manager in financial support. So customers that have defaulted on their unsecured products. So let's say they can't pay their credit card or their personal loan, etc. I manage a team of agents who speak to them on the phone, input plans, and kind of do our best for our customers. It's a really nice part of the bank. You really feel like you're helping the customers, and we really do everything for them. So it's a really nice place to be in. And then my next placement, unsure what it'll be yet. I'll have to apply for it, but it will be something to do with risk and governance, which I'm really looking forward to. And then finally, it will be a strategic placement. So you apply for those as you go throughout the scheme. So to be continued, but I'm sure if any of you end up joining, I can let you know where I end up. So if you want to head over to the next slide for me, Anastasia. Fab, thank you. So this is just a brief overview of what the graduate scheme would look for you lot. So in terms of going forward, the Wealth and Personal Banking Scheme is an 18-month programme. So it will be 3 with the choice of 4 placements. Similar to myself, you will do your inductions and then you will lead into a customer-centric placement. So really good for subject knowledge, understanding kind of the nitty-gritty products and services that you might know what they are, but not quite how they work from behind the scenes, which is really, really great exposure. I think it adds such value to your latter placements when you kind of understand how things work from a customer point of view, because at the end of the day, we wouldn't have a bank if we didn't have customers. So really useful to have that one first. You will then head into your operational placement. So this is where you kind of get the element of choice, whether you do a 1 6-month or 2 3-month placements. So you can see some of the examples there: digital transformation, risk management, such a variety of placements in this graduate scheme. There really is the option for you to kind of take what you want. If you put your effort into your application and into meeting the right people and put your time into it, you really can kind of gear your career however you like to, which I think is a really, really good benefit of this. And then in your final year, you will complete your strategy and people placement. So this even more widens up your element of choice. So you can choose whether you're going to go down kind of the leadership and team management kind of route, or whether you want to focus on data and analytics. Really is kind of an element of choice there, and you kind of put forward your preferences of what you would like. And then the aim of all of that is to end up in a destination role. So at the end of the graduate scheme, you would roll off into a permanent position, hopefully with HSBC. And you will have had a really good understanding at that point of the different parts of the bank and kind of how they work. So it's almost kind of a whole lot of little interviews where you get to meet all these different teams and decide if they're right for you, if that's something you're interested in. So yeah, and then if you want to go over onto the next slide for me, Anastasia. Fab, thank you. So we've just put together here kind of I know before I started my graduate scheme, I didn't really know what a day would look like, because you're kind of used to timetables in school and university, and you get used to having such a structured day. And that's all I wanted. I wanted someone to tell me, right, what is my day going to look like? Because you always get a fluffy answer back. So we've put together kind of a typical day. Obviously it changes, never the same, it never will be. But this generally, I've put in kind of the anchors of my week into this little timetable. So I would generally start with a unsecured managers catch up in financial support. So that's kind of loads of different departments together, and you could literally talk about any kind of business issues, anything that's arisen in that week. People take ownership for any blockers that are arising, and then we take them away and find resolutions. Really, it's just to make sure everyone in the area is on the same page, everyone knows what we're doing. And a really great opportunity to kind of interact with senior managers, which I think a lot of the time can be quite a distant thing. But that's something I've definitely noticed in my placements. That kind of level of exposure is really, really great. Then 10 a.m, a one-to-one with one of my agents. So I'm responsible for 12 agents. So I do one-to-ones, call coaching, responsible for their well-being, their development, their performance, that kind of thing. So really kind of putting the focus on them, making sure they're getting as much as they want out of their role. At the minute, there's so many progression opportunities for our agents, which is just amazing to see. Somewhere that graduates who spend all their time writing CVs and applying for jobs can really help, because a lot of people don't have all the resources that you guys have, even being here. So it's a really nice opportunity to share that knowledge. And you feel like you know something that others don't, which is quite rare. So yeah, really good. And also just discuss the agent's MI, so that kind of like performance data, whether they're taking enough calls, how quick they're wrapping up the calls, that kind of thing. Yeah, so if you want to pop over to the next one, we have our monthly people work stream calls. So this is something that I kind of take part in outside of my job or my role, as it were. So I'm part of a working group that puts the focus on people in financial support. So I'm part of the diversity and inclusion stream. So we've just launched an amazing initiative having diversity and inclusion champions throughout our department, because I think while we have so many big initiatives in the bank, sometimes when it's filtered down to smaller teams, it can kind of get lost in translation. So we put a real focus on kind of making that part of business as usual, which is really good. And I love that side of it. There's also, like I've listed there, there's wellbeing people, coaching, development, volunteering. Everyone kind of takes an element of people and runs with it, takes ownership with it, and kind of has initiatives. And it's kind of just an opportunity to throw the ideas around, get a bit of refinement on them, how we're going to implement them. And yeah, it's one of the highlights of my week, I have to say. I've then popped in a team meeting. So that's with the other managers and our department manager. So we take quite a laid back approach to this in my current role, and it's so amazing. So my manager has kind of just said, if anyone has anything they're interested in, whether it be finance related or not, just run with it and present it to the team. So it's really fun. And yeah, next week we have a workshop on getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So it's that kind of development side of it, which is really good. And then if you want to pop on to the next one, this is just lunch and wellbeing, kind of your bread and butter, really. If you're not feeling well at work, you can't really perform. So I try to go outside every lunchtime just for some air. I think that makes a world of a difference to a day. And I've said there as well, as HSBC employees at the minute, we get a free kind of premium subscription to the Headspace app, which has been incredible. Such a amazing, like, seems like such a tiny perk, but it's been so amazing to see the impact that's had on our colleagues. So yeah, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing mindfulness, all sorts. It's really, really cool. And if you pop on to, I believe this is the final one, I've put in a one-to-one with the graduate development team. So as well as having placement managers, you have one consistent manager throughout your whole graduate scheme, which is really good, because I think sometimes on rotational grad schemes, you could miss out that element of consistency, and one person is seeing your development over the whole time, apart from yourself. So it's really good to have that consistency, somebody that knows you inside out, somebody that sees you progress and your challenges and everything like that. So really, really good the way that works. And then finally, we have kind of, as well as your day-to-day role, you need to get involved in kind of the graduate community and that side of things. So my role this year has been being an on-program manager for our internship. So many of you may have been to kind of Enactus or other events to do with that before. So people in their penultimate year of university will do an internship with HSBC. And it's kind of just been their version of the consistent manager for that time. So doing one-to-ones, talking development, any well-being issues, just being kind of a general go-to manager that's not placement specific. And being a part of that working group. So everything internship, which is, again, really fun to get involved in and kind of help people that are you a year ago. So really nice opportunity. And then if you pop on to the next slide, these are just a couple of thoughts I had really. So sitting down, having to think, right, what have I gained from this graduate scheme that I'd like to share with others? So I thought, firstly, in terms of experiences, I think, like I mentioned before, I think it plays into the global element. That diversity of thought in this company is crazy because everyone has such different backgrounds, different experiences, different life stories. Everyone does just think so differently. And don't get me wrong, that can cause problems. Of course it can. But it's just so amazing to see so many different perspectives and so many different ways of thinking. And I think that really does add value, both business-wise and people-wise. So I put that down as one of my most valuable experiences because it really just took me by surprise. I didn't think it would be so diverse. And then I also put down a mindfulness program that I attended. So kindly sponsored by the bank. It was bi-weekly. It was an amazing lady who would come in externally. And it was just incredible, really. It showed like real value on our well-being and taking care of ourselves when we needed it most. I think we had just joined. It could have been stressful. And it was just that reminder, you need to look after yourself kind of thing. So I really like that. And then in terms of skills, I went down the more hard skills route on the first one. So I did my Scrum Master qualification this year. So the bank fund your qualification. I don't know how much you guys know about Scrum Master, but it's part of the Scrum kind of ideology. And it was facilitation skills, agile ways of working, kind of implementing Scrum within your organization. So I'm now certified to do that, which is incredible. Something that I never really thought I would do, but the bank introduced me to it, sounded right up my street. And so I just ran with it, which was great. And then also leadership. I think the thing that makes the wealth and personal banking scheme very unique is that exposure to leadership, both obviously as a team manager, you're doing leadership. However, also in terms of the internship or in terms of people work stream, there's so many elements that you can just get involved with and kind of refine your leadership skills, because I don't think you know what kind of a leader you're going to be until you're there. So I think that's really unique and something that I've definitely spent a lot of time developing. And then if you want to pop onto my final slide, just conscious of time. So I've popped down here my three biggest successes, and you've got to bear with me because I've only been here a year, but I am very proud of them. So my first one is, as I mentioned before, implementing the Diversity and Inclusion Champion program across my current business area, which is quite a big business area. And it was something that I think potentially was just hadn't been thought of before, or it was just, I brought it from my old role. We had Diversity and Inclusion Champions there, so I thought, why not have them here? Just to add that element of ownership, really. There's a great culture around this kind of stuff in my department, but there wasn't anyone directly responsible. And I thought, let's recognize the people that are doing this kind of off their own back and making others feel comfortable and empowered. So yeah, that's definitely my biggest achievement so far. And then I've been guiding the 2021 internship cohort through their journey. Again, something I never thought at the age of 22 I would be able to say I've done. The feedback I got was amazing, really heartwarming. Look, we're all impressionable at this stage of our careers, aren't we, really? So to have that opportunity to kind of help people and shape where they're going in their future, really, really rewarding. And then I would also say building a genuine network for my final one, because I'm not the most networky of people. I don't put myself out there too much. I only speak to people if it comes up in like a genuine way. But I've really made an effort to kind of reach out to people, learn more about their roles, that kind of thing, and doing that kind of genuine networking. So again, that stands my biggest success just because it was so challenging for me to do. And then my challenges, I'll run through these quickly because I'm over time now, but moving teams just as you get comfortable. I think with any rotational grad scheme, you will get this, because you get to that 6-month mark and you're thinking, great, I have this under wraps. I'm really getting there, getting somewhere with it, know exactly what I'm doing. And then you're like, oh God, I've got to move on now. So that can be challenging, but I think it also instills a really good growth mindset in you, because it keeps you wanting to go on for the next thing, which I think is really healthy and quite counterintuitive for me. I'm quite a comfort person, but it's actually been quite useful to instill that within me. Another challenge in terms of the management rotation is managing more experienced colleagues that you know have a lot more technical knowledge than you. Can be quite hard, and sometimes there can be resistance. That is difficult, but a lot less intimidating than I had preempted it to be. So that's still good. And then flexing to different management styles. You'll have 3 or 4 placement managers and a consistent manager from the graduate scheme. They will all manage you in very different ways, and sometimes it can be hard to switch that up quite quickly. So yeah, that's one that is potentially difficult, but again, a really good skill to have, because you're going to go through so many managers in your life. So really fab to pick up that skill along the way. And then what I've enjoyed, I think just having that safety net of give it a go. If it goes right, and this is so like reliant on your managers, and the managers are fab. Like, they've always said to me, try it, give it a go. If it goes wrong, we're here. We'll, like, it's fine. How wrong can it go, kind of thing. And they give you that confidence that I think as somebody just entering your career, you can lack sometimes. So that's what I've enjoyed the most. And then in terms of advice, be open-minded. Obviously, nationally mobile program, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know where you're going to go. Just go with it. Why not? Like, there's so many opportunities available. You've got nothing to lose. Like, if you decide not to apply, fine, but why not apply and see where it goes? Like, there's no harm in it. It will take however much time out of your day, and it could change your life. It could be your career. So yeah, that sounds very deep, but that was my advice. And then I'll pass on to Ted.
Thank you so much, Kuva. Over to you, Ted.
Thank you very much. So as opposed to Quiva, as mentioned, I am an industrial placement student with the bank, or IP for short. I finished my second year of University of Exeter in May, June time, as most of you are at university, or all of you are at university now. I really enjoyed the first couple of years and looking forward to going back there next September. Study economics and finance, which is very related to wealth and personal banking, sort of same field as what I was looking to do in my industrial placement year, and feel very lucky to have got this opportunity. Hobbies listed there. If you know me well, which none of you know me, unfortunately, I play or follow any sport. I would just watch it, look at results, play anything, and enjoy going out with my friends. Very normal. And I'm currently in the office, 1CS Birmingham, which is the new UK headquarters. I came here the first time yesterday, and it's a really cool building, office to be in, and that's why you may see the old person walk behind me at the moment. It's quite busy here on the floor. But if you go to the next slide, Alice stage, I'll just chat through a bit of the IP scheme. So these are all the different sort of, this is the timeline for your 12-month industrial placement while you're with the bank. So for me, it started around October, November time, similar time to what we are now this time last year. I was looking at applying for various jobs and trying to get as many applications in to give myself the best chance of getting a really cool placement. So it starts with a few online exams and things, as Anastasia explained, the application process. And then from there, sort of virtual interviews, in-person interview at the end. And then I think it was mid to start December, I had my virtual experience day, or final assessment. And then a couple of months after that, was lucky enough to be told that I got the job and started in July, which is where we come to sort of the induction runway part. And from having my final assessment and getting the outcome, you're regularly in touch with the placement managers and part of the emerging talent team. So for me, that was Alicia, who is the industrial placement specialist, and that's just regular emails checking in, various sessions being put on. And then I was introduced to my graduate buddy as I joined during the induction week, which I'll chat a bit more about later. So we had our induction week in July, start of July time. And then from there, I got put into my team the week after. And actually, I'm working in the emerging talent team. which is a really cool place to be and get to see all those behind the scenes of the grad scheme and how everything works. As mentioned there, graduate buddy, degree learning pathway are all things you can get involved in and take advantage of all the tools available while you're on your placement with us. And I know I haven't got to this stage yet, but when it comes to in the appreciate me and say farewell part, I know at the end of your industrial placement, there'll be sort of reviews, having a look at the objectives that you've hit during your year and what you set at the start. And then you get a celebration event for a couple of days, which is you meet all the cohort together and you join with a few of the emerging talent team who come with you. And I guess there's a formal part at the start when everyone does their presentation on the year and everything they've learned. And then you get the a celebration at the end, which will be really cool. So if you go to the next slide, thank you. So this is more specific to my job with the bank. So as an industrial placement student in WPB, Wealth and Personal Banking, you have the chance to apply as a business support officer or a data analyst. And then this year there is a few more business support officers than data analysts. But as all the things on the right, there are skills and stuff that you develop while you're here. And then on the left-hand side is more general roles that you could be asked to do. So this will definitely vary from team to team where you're put into. So I know other people will be having different responsibilities and different jobs to do during their time with the bank, but those are pretty accurate in terms of project management, supporting the team. So my manager could ask me to a piece of work that'd like to be done that she's going to be presenting in a few weeks' time, and you feel sort of valued. I know that the preconception of it is to some placements or internships, which you do in the summer, would be, oh, you're making the coffee, things like that. It's always things that you hear as being sort of bottom of the chain, but it really isn't like that. And my experience at HSBC, you feel valued and really responsible for things that you do, and actually get to do hands-on work, and you feel as you're not just put at the bottom of the pile, you feel really respected and part of the team, and you sort of realize that the work you're doing is important, which I think is really cool. So if you go to the next stage, I think I'm going to run through my sort of typical day as an IP. As Queve said very accurately, I haven't had a day exactly like this, and they obviously vary from day to day. It can be busy some days are really quiet. But I start with one that I'd have fairly regularly, which is a project planning meeting, which, as mentioned there, we could be a couple of members of our team could be delegated a task to do, which is due in for a few weeks. I know one that I've been working on for the last 3 or 4 weeks was a session that myself and another member of my team were running in our team day yesterday here at the office. So in order to complete that, we sort of booked in an hour slot a couple of times a week just to check in with each other, but just to update on how we're doing and just putting a planned timeline in place, which I think is really important to getting projects done and hitting deadlines. So sort of going away from that meeting and said, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z. And then my other team member said she'll get that done by the end of the week, and just staying in touch, because collaboration is a massive part if you're doing a joint project together, in my opinion, and it makes it a lot easier to complete when you come to the final deadlines. Secondly, a thing I have in my diary all the time is an Enactus catch-up. So funnily enough, in my role as an IP student and joining the emerging talent team, I'm partially responsible for the relationship between HSBC and Enactus. So myself and Anastasia work really closely with Caroline and Amy, the two people from Enactus we're in touch with. So that's running various sessions, organising events like today. And I know that last week I organised a session for HSBC employees looking at becoming coaches, as Caroline mentioned earlier. So we were recruiting coaches for Enactus. So we were offering this development opportunity to employees. Caroline ran an introductory session introducing the concept and chatting a bit more about Enactus. And then from there, we were lucky enough, I think, to have a few people sign up and become coaches for HSBC and representing Enactus at the same time. So if you go to the next slide, Anastasia, please. Team meeting, as I put on there, I think it's important to include that there are a couple of types of team meetings. So bi-weekly strategic meeting, that's a formal hour, which we'd plan in advance. People would populate a table of what sections we want to cover in the meeting. So that could be chatting about people's focuses each week. I know in my team, there's 8 or 9 people, which is quite a nice number. So everyone just runs through what's their focus for the week, have they got capacity to help people, just offering assistance if some people are in busy times and if some people have time to offer up to others. I think it's really important. But then we also have a development section in our team meeting. So if any member has gone to maybe a learning session or a university put on lecture, sorry, HSBC University put on lecture, which they put on, or any various sessions run by external companies coming in, if they wanted to share that information or come back and thought that was valuable to the team, then we'd have that section. And for example, I know one of my members of my team went to an ADHD awareness seminar last week and thought it was really important to share with us, as obviously dealing with grads and realizing how important it is to accommodate everyone. And then we have the informal side of team meetings. So a couple of times a week, we just have sort of lunch, breakfast check-ins. That could be simply as everyone joining, having a chat, seeing what everyone's doing before the weekend or after the weekend on a Monday morning. I think they're also important, just to have that side and build relationships with people. And then secondly, grad buddy check-in. For myself, I have that once a month with my buddy Ellie, but I think it's a really valuable thing that HSBC have added this to the industrial placements. So I think it's, as I've said there, it's a great point of contact outside of your team. So if you don't feel comfortable maybe asking a question relating to your placement or how you're doing at work, or if you're really busy and maybe stressed, just having someone that isn't a direct team member and just to ask questions and learn from their experiences. So someone who's been on the grad scheme, and I know Ellie was a past industrial placement student, so easily relatable, talking about her experiences. Then also really engaging just conversations. She's interested in my development and asking me questions about how I'm doing objectives wise, what I've been doing in work, and taking a real interest. And I think that's just important to have outside the team, and a great thing that I've been introduced to from literally the start of my placement, and I'll be in contact with her throughout it all. If you go to the next slide, talk about lunch. I think lunch hours are a really important part of my working day. Just to break it up, if you're working 9 to 5 or similar hours to that, I know everyone's different in what they want to do or do over lunchtime, but for me personally, I switch off the notifications on my laptop, go downstairs, so I work from my bedroom, go and make lunch, chill out, watch TV sort of thing, go out for a walk if it's a nice day, and just switch off for an hour or so before heading back upstairs and finishing the afternoon. It just, as I said, breaks up the day for me, and you're definitely better having this break for concentration levels. If you try and concentrate for too long, then quality of work goes down. I'd much rather work for that sort, not smaller period of time, but less big chunks of work stay, to maintain concentration and to ensure that you're always accurate and no mistakes start creeping in. If you go to the next section, please. So one-to-one with emerging talent. As I said, I funnily enough work within emerging talent, so I have regular one-to-ones with all of my team members, but also with my program manager, who looks after the industrial placement students. That's just chatting through objectives and anything you've set at the start and progress we're making with our teams. I know for the other IPs, you have your line manager as well as the placement manager to be supported by. So as you go, you could organise maybe bi-weekly, monthly sort of meetings with members of ET, and then come the end of it, they are the people who you will be looking back, checking objectives off, looking at your scorecard, and at the end of the placement having the celebration event with. So that's just sort of a point of contact that you can regularly get in touch with or use as much as you want, aside from the team that you're put in with and the team you're working with day to day. Finally, I've put in an IP student catch up. So I feel really lucky to have joined with a really cool cohort of people in the start of July. Funnily enough, I actually started with someone who I went to school with, complete coincidence. They were at Uni of Durham, I'm at Exeter, and we've ended up on the same placement scheme at HSBC. But it's great to hear what everyone else is working in, because we've all been put into different teams in different parts of the bank. But then also the informal side, I just said we're planning to, as a group of IPs, do a volunteering session, whether it be a litter pick, like I did say with my team, but as a group of us. And we get along really well, and it's nice to have that once or twice a week just to catch up with everyone. And we hope to meet in person soon. Obviously, we haven't had the chance to so far, with all of our work being online, and we haven't been able to see each other in the office like we would have done in other years. If you go next, please, Anastasia, that was my day. So here I've added in a few of my experiences and what skills I've developed. Bear in mind, I have been at the bank just over 3 months now, so I haven't had a full year. But I'd say from my experience so far, these will be the most valuable things I've learned. So as I mentioned the IP community a second ago, I think that's a really cool thing to be involved with. But also today I've been at the office doing a volunteering day today and a team meeting yesterday. It was just the grad community in general, as Quiva mentioned earlier. The grad IP community is great. You've got the chance to, I haven't applied yet, but I know the grad committee roles are opening and you have the chance to join them or the employee resource groups, which I'll be taking advantage of shortly. Probably my favorite session so far since joining the bank was last week when I attended the network session with Exco, which is as mentioned there, the WPB leadership team. So below the CEO of WPB, you have sort of a leadership team, whether it be head of wealth management, insurance, digital. So really senior members of the bank that you wouldn't interact with day to day. But we had a session put on by Emerging Talent for all WPB grads and IPs for joining a Zoom session and chatting with them all, put into various breakout rooms. And it was just really interesting to see that you wouldn't know that they were that senior leaders of the bank unless you knew. They just treat you like one of their fellow employees. They didn't look down on you or anything. And just to have that chance to connect with other people that you wouldn't get the chance to day to day. And as mentioned briefly a minute ago, 2 volunteering days a year, which I think is quite nice that you can take off aside from your annual leave. So today I took part in a litter pick around the Birmingham Canal area with my team that I work with, but also other grads who are invited along. So you get the chance to take those 2 paid days, let's say, which you go and litter pick, you can go and organise something with your team or your cohort of grads, IPs or interns, whichever you'd like to do. Skills I developed. So by my interaction with Enactus, but also through my team, I haven't really had the chance to present or do things like this while at university or school. And when I have, I've tried to avoid them. So I don't really like doing that kind of thing. But I've improved my presentation skills, I'd say definitely by just the preparation for it, whether it be filling in slides or knowing what I'm going to say and feeling comfortable in this environment. I know that it's slightly easier on Zoom when chatting to a computer, which seems quite weird, but in a normal period of time would have been just in front of an audience. But I'd say secondly, as I've mentioned here on the screen, I think time management is really important when you're starting a job like this. So I was always one at university in my first couple of years. I'd sort of have in my head what I wanted to do, but that really doesn't work while you're in a busy working environment. And I've really taken advantage of the Outlook calendar and sort of the Outlook planning that you can use while here. So that is, if I have a busy time at work, you can block out time in your calendar or just effectively plan a week or two's time. And I think planning is really important so you don't get stressed or overwhelmed in busy periods and you're always under control with sort of keeping lists of what things you've got to get done. And yeah, I think that really helps and I've improved that and something I'm going to be using going forward when I go back to university and in my future work. If you go to the next slide, I'll say, yeah. Thank you. So bearing in mind, I have only been here 3 months. I haven't had a chance to do too many completion of tasks or projects, but the few things I'll quickly mention here. The Enactus coaches recruitment that I was looking at last week and the week before, sort of planning that session and getting people involved with the bank. I think that's been a really big success and we managed to get quite a few grads and other members of the bank interested in this proposition. A few weeks ago, I completed a project for my manager which she's presenting to global stakeholders and leader of global graduate programs in a few weeks' time. So I was looking at the interns that left us at the end of August and their survey sort of how we can improve the internship and what everyone's experiences were. So I was basically crunching numbers in there and looking at the various descriptions to summarize. A different success, but I think it's one worth mentioning, just feeling very welcomed when you join the bank, given responsibility straight away and things to do, not just sort of forgotten about or you felt excluded from the team. You're instantly welcomed by everyone, whether it be emerging talent, the team you're in or your cohort. And the induction weeks really help, I think, just to get to know people and break the ice before going off and joining your teams. Challenges I faced, more of an exciting thing, but also a challenge I found was the overload of information you're given at the beginning. So you're told all the different tools you can use on online platforms that are available to you, whether it be Degree, the HSBC Now, Fusion to look at all expense related items. It can be a bit overwhelming at first, having all this chucked at you and all the objectives that you've got to complete during the year. But once you settle down, you realize that they're all really helpful to you and you start just using them day to day. Balancing busy periods of work, which I mentioned a minute ago with the time management that ties into that. it's just at the start when you realize you've got many things on at once can be a bit daunting. But as long as you're organising, planning your time ahead of schedule, whether it be for the next week or next 2 weeks, I think that's really valuable and helps you out when looking at that. And I'd say settling into a new routine, I know especially for myself and last cohort, looking at all being working from home. So in other years, it would have been 5 days in the office and no real compromise to that. But working from home and settling into this new routine after being 2 years at university with most of that in lockdown.
Apologies, that's my computer.
No worries.
Okay.
I'll quickly run through these last two because I know we haven't got much time.
No worries.
Enjoyed so far. We're definitely just meeting all the people involved, meeting all the people at HSBC, whether it be the ExCo members and more senior leaders of the bank, but more generally grads and people you work with and the people I joined with. Valuable being part of this such a big organisation where you can make global connections and meet so many people even in the year that I'm here. And lastly, the career advice I give to myself, I hope this makes sense here. Don't try and be someone you aren't. So I'd say definitely last year when I was applying for jobs and doing various online interviews, you may be trying to tick boxes or in your head trying to impress subconsciously by saying things that maybe aren't relevant to you. I've learned that definitely at HSBC, and I'm sure it's the same at other companies, just difference is embraced and valued. So it's important just to be who you are, and that sort of inclusive culture that we definitely have here at the bank is a really important part of being here. So thank you very much. I think I'll hand back to Anastasia.
Thank you so much, Ted. Thank you so much, Kriva, for the wonderful session. I, for once, learned a lot more about both of you, so that was extremely useful for me as well. But hopefully you have managed to learn something more about HSBC and about our graduate and industrial placement programs. So on the slide, you now see the link to our website, which is hsbc.com/earlycareers. So this is where you can apply for our programs, read about our programs, and find out a lot of different and useful hints and tips on your application. I know we've received a couple of questions regarding the application process and advice on where to apply, to which program to apply, and one in particular. I see the question from someone who wants to apply to IT-related or digital transformation-related programs. We do have those at HSBC as well. Our team does not manage them, but some of my colleagues do. So I would advise going to our website, as you will be able to apply for the digital banking services, graduate programs and internship programs there. I don't see any questions that we have other than those that Kriva have kindly responded to. Thank you so much, Kriva. So I will wait for one more minute to see whether any more questions would come up, and if not, we can just wrap up the session and let you all go. Okay, so while we are waiting, let me just maybe copy some of our email address and our website to the chat so you can just follow the link directly. If you just give me a second. And the link in the middle is also very useful for you, because those are some of our careers events that we're running, and we have quite a lot of them planned for the future. So I will be looking forward to seeing you there. So I see another question about fast track schemes through Enactus. Unfortunately, we don't offer that. However, hopefully these sessions will be very helpful throughout the recruitment process with us. And hopefully you can reach out to any one of us if you have any questions, and we will be happy to help you with anything.
Anastasia, I've just had a question come through, just asking when the applications close.
So officially they close on the 7th of January of 2022. However, I do recommend applying as soon as you can, because we recruit on rolling basis. And as soon as we have enough of our positions filled, we will close. I see another question for Ted. So what's your favorite thing about HSBC, Ted?
Put me on the spot like that, thank you. Favorite thing about HSBC, I think it is just the knowledge that you have so many people that you can connect and go to. As I said, the Exco session last week was really inspiring to me, chatting to senior leaders and people you wouldn't work with day to day. But knowing that if I am lucky enough to come back onto the grad scheme and do what Quiva is doing, and you have a couple of years to be at the bank, it is to build relationships and meet so many new people that can help you during your career, for sure.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I don't see any more questions that would come through. So I'm gonna wrap this up, and thank you so much, Caroline and Amy. I know she's somewhere probably behind the scenes for inviting us.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ted, for giving such a wonderful presentation. It was really insightful. I wanted to ask, what is the duration of the internship, and can international students also apply for it?
Yes, international students can apply and are welcome to apply. And the duration of internship is from 8 to 10 weeks.
Thank you.
No worries.
Great. I think that might be all that we've got time for, but thank you so much, Anastasia, Ted and Quiva. It's been amazing to get so many insights from yourselves and really kind of knuckle down into what the day-to-day looks like for HSBC students. I really hope that you've been inspired to apply. It sounds like there is definitely a place for everybody, no matter what your interests are. So I really, really hope that you take on board the advice that's been given today, and hopefully I'm looking at future leaders of HSBC, which is very exciting. But for now, I will let everybody go and enjoy their afternoon, and just thank you again so much. It's been great to have you all on board and to hear about so many different insights today. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.